You're listening to Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, your go-to gal for all things money. As the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach, I'm here to take you on a thrilling ride from the financial chaos to sassy and sexy money. Hey, my sassy friend. Welcome to another episode of Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, the Sassy Wealth Queen, the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach. And today with me, my guest is Lindsay Hack. And I'm kind of biased. I absolutely love her because she's also my trainer and a dear friend. We've worked together for 6 years now? Lindsay Hack is a life coach and a weight loss specialist and a fitness trainer. I don't care if she has that on there or not. Her focus is simplifying the process and decoding all the BS from the diet and fitness industry, working with women 40 plus who struggle doing all the things, getting results one step at a time. And again, I'm biased. I can assure you she does all the things and pushes you, and it's one step at a time because 6 years now?
I was going to say six years in September, right?
Yeah, this past September. Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. Thank you for being on with me today for us to talk all things money, candid conversation. And what I wanted to talk about was what it was like when you started your business, because you started, I think, right around the same time I did, or a little bit before. And I remember you talking about when we met in 2017 about look at money, me? No. So can you tell us how that was what was the mindset when you first started? And then we'll go into the shifts.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in this industry for 20 plus years. I've run my own business since 2008. But I'm not going to lie. I did it while my husband made a lot of money in the corporate world. So it was never really about the money. It was about the enjoyment, and I loved what I did, and it was very passionate. And then in 2016, I brought my business online, and I was ready to really commit to retiring him from corporate, which meant I had to make enough money to make that happen. And my business did very well very quickly, and I had no idea what to do when it came to the financial side of things. Money came in, money went out. I didn't really know who I was paying, what I was doing. I was a one-man show at the time, and I felt like I was working all the time and making no money. And then, of course, you and I had started talking about training and working online together with me. And so then, of course, I started asking you questions about money and financials. And that was when I really realized, rather than living with my head in the sand, which is what I was kind of doing, okay, where's this money going? What's happening with it? I really had to create a plan. And so you and I sat down, and I'm assuming got to the point where you have your pay first program now, because that's what it was all about. It was like, how can I make some money and actually keep it in my bank account, versus do this out of the pure passion that I had, which is absolutely true as well. But I wanted to make and save enough money so I could retire my husband, Ben, from corporate. We wanted to move out of Canada. We wanted to move to Mexico. So there's a lot of things that were in the works of doing. And I needed to make sure that financially I understood what that meant. And it took a while. It took a long time. I opened my bank accounts. We still have that now. A lot of the things that I learned through that process with you is something that we continue to do. Both my husband and I, we run our business together now, 6 years in Mexico ourselves. So it's been quite an interesting journey to go from scattered, confused, to be fair, completely fearful of what money was doing for me, to this understanding now where it's like, this is what gets us to live the life we live and be in a place where we are, where we live in Mexico. We have the life that we live in our location freedom, and not be afraid anymore of that financial. And I'm definitely not going to say it happened overnight. I would say even in the last probably 6 months, I've really seen another shift in that. But it's been quite an interesting journey along the way.
So what kind of shifts have you seen again, in the last 6 months?
So I was the person, and maybe anybody listening or watching can appreciate this, where I always told myself I was not good with money. And part of that was experience. I had made some really bad mistakes when I was just new into, couplehood, then parenthood. And I made some mistakes, and we got ourselves into a bit of a place where I just literally turned around to Ben and was like, I can't do this anymore. And I passed the budget off to him. And I spent probably good 5 years there. I didn't know where our money was. He was the money guy behind the business. He was the money guy behind our family. And I didn't want to know. It was more like, la, 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 just give me my money and I will do whatever I need to do. You focus on saving. You focus on bill paying. You focus on all those things. So even though we had gotten our money in a good place to move to Mexico and do those things, it was all him. It was me being like, I'm not interested. I'm not good at this. It was the stories that I told myself. And then for a little bit, there was a moment where, as you can imagine, where couples are supposed to give and take, I was never taking. I was always expecting him to do all the things. And it was hard on him. And so he finally turned around and he's like, I need some responsibility from you. I need you to help me, even if it's just with me, not without me. You don't have to take it on, but you need to be with me. And so I started taking it a lot more seriously. I started looking at, the budget, even though all the numbers really confused me. And even still now I'm like, I still don't get certain things. But I'm open and willing to learn about it. And I think that was the big turning point for me. And as I was just saying a minute ago, like watching the money move and pay things off and, debt snowball and actually savings, like it's actually really exciting. And I think that's the shift that I've had more recently is it's like, instead of it feeling like a chore and, oh God, I have to look at the budget or, oh my goodness, this is what's going on. It's more like I get to take that control. And I love that. And I love seeing the budget. I love seeing the money grow. And I love seeing as we're saving for things, the money in the buckets growing. And that was a massive shift for me because for the longest time, I just didn't want to. And I kept that fear of my head being, I don't like money. I don't work with money. I remember, I think when we first started talking, you're like, yeah, I make money, Sass. And I'm like, what? You can't make money sexy. I'm like, no. And now I'm just like, ooh, like, let's do this. Let's talk about this. And so it's been a really interesting shift, just from that perspective.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to ask you a question. How does it feel now when you look at money and like you're saving for the buckets, like the different buckets? Because that's one of the things you did take from me was, instead of having just one savings account, I say have multiple savings accounts, especially for personal. So that way you don't have all the money lumped in because there's different emergencies for different things. So if you have buckets for them, you don't get in your head of, oh, this is emergency now, crap, what am I going to do if something happens to like the freezer or whatever? So I remember you were like, I like this. Okay, I can get around this. And so how is it different now to have that and versus where it was? Like what kind of shifts have happened to the way you look at money or think about money?
I think the big thing for me was that I just gave that power away, and I happily did it at the time because I was afraid or I didn't, think I was good with money. And now I feel so much more empowered because even though, I would say we're not 50-50 yet, Ben still controls a lot of what we do because there's still so much learning to be done. I definitely feel more in control. And I think that is a really, really powerful thing because, it's kind of like what I say in my business, when you are actually disciplined and focused and working, it's the only thing sometimes you can control, right? It really is. Sometimes when life is crazy, which we've talked about many times, the only thing you can control is showing up for yourself, right? Being there at your workouts, eating your foods, whatever. Sometimes it's the only thing you can control. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like that financial piece for me is also that next piece that I can control, right? I watch the buckets grow and we have, a car bucket. And once it's filled, it's like, now we can move some of that money into the kids have their orthodontist bucket for their teeth. And, we have, Christmas going away at the beach. And so as you kind of grow those buckets, the excitement of understanding where the money's going, what it's doing, and then building into it. And I just feel like for me, that's a huge empowerment because when I looked at discipline for eating and everything, it doesn't have to be perfect. We say this all the time, right? You're never going to have perfection when it comes to your health. And it's the same now with the money, where before I had these shifts, every time we had an emergency or every time we had to grab something out of a bucket, I was like, oh, but the bucket. But it's okay because now I know that just like if I didn't eat well today or I forgot to get my workout in or I couldn't get my workout in, I was still okay. And I think that's been really interesting, meshing those two together, because now it's okay if I see that we have to grab something, right? Because for the longest time, the emergency fund was there, but I never wanted to touch it. And it's like, well, hold on a second. That's the whole point, that it's there. So, but I didn't want to see it go down. And now it's like, no, it's okay. We go down because we need that. We're not spending it on random things, but we just build it back up again. And I don't know, that building back up again, that looking at the chart that we have, the understanding that these buckets are being filled, that is so exciting now. Where in the past, I didn't even want to look at the buckets. I didn't want to know about the buckets. I just wanted to know, here, can I go and afford this? Can I do that? Can I do that? And that's really been empowering for me.
Yeah. And what I love about the buckets is the fact that it separates the money and it's specifically for specific things. So like I was telling you, I have a My Girls bucket. I have a bucket for vehicle. I have a bucket for I'm trying to think. Can't think. My fitness. So I have like several different buckets. I have Lisa spending. Yes, I have a bucket. This is Lisa spending. If there's money in there, and I decide I want me a new pair of jeans, guess what? Lisa can get a new pair of jeans. And that's just, and if there's no money in there, Lisa waits. And it's perfect example is we're in the process. We realized that the barbell set I have doesn't go any higher, and the weights that go on there, they're so thick, so you can't actually put the whole thing on there. So we realized I needed a new barbell set, and we found one which the weights are thinner and it'll go up heavier. And I even made the comment of, who would have ever thought that I would be outgrown one barbell set going for another one. And the cool thing is I don't have to worry about where is the money coming from. I have a fitness account. There's money going in there. And I told her, okay, I'm about a month away. I'll be able to get it, because I'll go and get that first and then build it back up for whatever, is next. If I need new workout pants, or if I need, I think we were talking about another kettlebell. So the beauty of it is being able to allocate money in a specific account, and it's being specifically for a certain thing. So like when I took my daughter, remember I took her on a cruise, and that's what I did is I set up a savings account bucket, and it was Kenzie's Cruise, and that there was all the money went in there. And then that name of that bucket changed to something else afterwards. So it's kind of like a revolving one. But the beauty of it is again, you have all these, I have like 15, y'all, so I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. I didn't start off with 15. That's just how many I have now, for the record. But the cool thing is when you have that vehicle, okay, and you have one, say, for your house, you don't have to worry about if something breaks in the house and, oh crap, okay, where am I, coming, quote unquote, from emergency savings. And I like saying rainy day more than emergency. Either way, I like having the separate ones for those things, because then we don't have to worry about, like you said, oh crap, I had to take some money out of there. What if something happens to the vehicle? Well, that's okay, because the vehicle savings is for the vehicle. And so I've always loved the beauty of that. For me, my brain just wrapped around the specificity of being able to have savings accounts for specific things, and watch them build up. And if you have to go and use them, that's okay. That's what they're there for, is to use. How has it affected your business with the shifts that you've done? Are you able to, be more, go after more of the things and the growth that you want in the business?
Yeah, actually, interesting enough, we were just talking about this. And that's the other thing that I find that it's been really interesting in that shift is like we do a money meeting probably 3 times a week now, where we sit down and we discuss like what's going on, what needs to go into that bucket, how's that going? And one of the conversations we just had was, how do we shift and how do we up level, right? So, I mean, with any business, you want to get to a place where, I have zero interest in being a millionaire, but we want to be in a place where we have enough money coming in where we don't have to worry. I was saying, travel is like my big thing. I want to do as much traveling as possible. So with that being said, now that we have more, and I say we being the royal we, because I wasn't the one that was involved, but now that we are involved and that I'm involved, I feel like there's definitely more space to be like, okay, so what do we want to do? How do we bring it in? Where before it was always just like, okay, you need to go and do this, Lindsay, you need to go and do that. And it was just Ben telling me what I needed, because financially that's what was going on. Where now I'm much more in that place where I was was like, okay, this is happening. This is what we need. This is what I want. This is how I do it. And, as much as I am part of this idea of my passion, I would do this for free. We live as our business. My husband and I are together. We do this business together. So now it's much more about what is it that we want and how hard do we want to work to get it. And I think that shift has made a massive difference too, because if you had told me, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 1 year ago that I'd be having money meetings on a regular basis with my husband, I would have been like, no, I'm not. But I am now, and I actually get excited about it. So I think that's been a big shift, because now, my daughter, she's talking about going traveling by herself. That's okay. That's another story. But, then we're like, okay, what does that mean? And what does that look like? And now we're trying to teach her some of the important things about, like, this is how much money you have to, save. And this is what you need to do. But you also need to have money to do these things. And so it's been a really interesting kind of shift with that too, because, teenage daughters, as a kid, as a teenager, I knew nothing about money. I knew nothing about money. I walked into my university, at 18, and they're like, you want a credit card? I was like, sure, I do. I don't know anything about it. I'll take 5, right? And all of a sudden, this is how I started my money kind of life, where we're trying to teach our kids now at 14 and 16 that this is what you need, and it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be, scary and afraid of it. So I think that's been really fun too, to kind of watch that shift, because not only financially and business wise, I'm able to dream bigger because now I know exactly what's going on. I'm also able to pass it along to my kids, which I think is massive.
Which is basically awesome for me to hear, because that's generational impact, which is what I'm wanting. I'm wanting that tabooness and the scarcity mindset and that lack and to go away. I'm just going to say it. I want it to go away. I want the tabooness to go away. And the way that starts is we learn and we have the conversations and we become empowered with our money like you are, and have that sassy and sexy money with those buckets and it growing, and then have those conversations with our children. Because when we have those conversations with our children, even if we don't think they're retaining it all, like mine are 20 and 12. My oldest is autistic, so she's probably cognitively right around the age of 15 and 16. So she's grasping some of it, and some of it's going to be more repetitive and teaching her, right, like we would be teenagers. And the importance of that is it's then going to instill in them a totally different money mindset around money. Right now, my 12-year-old has, if there's money, that means I can go spend it. If she gets money and it's in her little debit card, that means she can go spend it until there's nothing in there. So I've had to make a rule that $5 has to stay in there at all times. Most of the time she does really well. And I'm still teaching her those different things of, if she wants something, to learn to save, especially with my oldest. And I think it's just really important that we're passing those things down, because we are then making, that impact. So I love that. What is one of the things that, I guess, like a money belief you used to have that now you don't?
Well, I think there's plenty in there. I mean, as I said, when I first, I'm from a single mom family, 3 girls, we didn't have anything. So I know that has to have an impact on me. I worked when I was 13. I gave money to the house because we didn't have money for, I went to school without lunches. I never got the good shoes. Like I'm the youngest as well. So I always got the hand-me-downs. So there's plenty of stuff going on in there. And I think because I was never taught. Now, part of that, I think, still is a struggle today, but I never took maths. I never took sciences. It wasn't until I decided to change my career completely that I got into that. So I didn't take economics. I didn't understand money at all. So when I went to university the first time, I literally got 3 credit cards and didn't have a job. I didn't know how to pay it back. I didn't even realize you had to pay it back. So there's a lot of muck in that limiting belief when it comes to financials. But I also think a lot of that, because of how I grew up. Goodwills were my friend. Value Village was my place where I could go and like find the treasures and do those things. And I still feel that way today. I don't love being frivolous with money. I don't want to go out and buy, $100,000 bags or whatever people spend their money on. That's kind of crazy to me, right? Like I don't. And so I feel like sometimes even now I work on it regularly. I think to myself, people who have a lot of money that have 82 cars in their garage is the craziest thing ever. And so for me, because I have those beliefs, I often have to look at what it is that feels good to me, right? We live a pretty easy, basic life in Mexico. We aren't frivolous. We don't have multiple cars. We don't have these monster houses. And so for me, it was like, that's what we want. And anybody who doesn't want that seems crazy. But that's not true, because if I want to spend all my money on traveling, or I live in Mexico and people are like, you're the one who's crazy, not me. Right. And so it's kind of shifting that part of it to be like, it's okay to still want to go to a Goodwill and find a really good deal, but it's also okay to make, $30,000 this month. And I can do both and not be one type of person or another type of person. And I think that's constant for me. That is something that I am always working on, because I find myself even, somebody will say something here in Mexico and I'm just like, oh, why would you spend that much money on that? Like, and in my head, it's automatically going, and I'm just like, whoa, hold on a second. Just because they want to spend money on that and I don't want to spend money on that doesn't mean one. So I think that's a work in progress. And I think that will always be, I do a lot of work on it. Ben and I in our money meetings talk a lot about our blocks and, what's going on with them, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that's been a really big one for me, is to be like, it's okay to be both. It's okay to be frugal in the sense of I'm not throwing money away, but it's also okay to save a ton of money and have a lot of money in my travel bucket so that I could turn around and be like, sure, I want to go there, and just be like, there's my money for it. So that for me has been a really interesting shift, even over the last 6 months now that I'm getting more involved in the money, because, I have found myself in multiple times being like, well, that's really expensive, or I can't believe somebody would spend that on that, or, oh my God, why would you want to do that? And that actually has also trickled down to my children. I was at dinner the other night, I don't know, a few months ago, and my daughter was like, oh my gosh, that's so expensive for a drink, which to be fair, it was, but I was just like, oh, there it is. There's my limiting belief. Now she's saying, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to spend $25 on a drink, but at the same time, I don't want her looking at things the same way. So that's been a really interesting shift. And it's kind of like everything we talk about, whether it be in health or finances or anything, you got to be really honest with yourself and just be like, what can I do here? What am I doing that's not so great here? What is it that I need to shift here? And that's been a big one that even just Ben and I have been talking about over the last few weeks, because, I could be a millionaire and I'd be okay with it. I don't think I would do the same things as I see some other people, but I also don't want to necessarily live that life where I have to hustle and grind and hustle and grind. And so it's been this like balancing act of being like, yeah, I want this money, but I don't necessarily want to work 100 hours a week for this money. And so being in that place where it's like the limiting belief of not having a lot of money growing up, having to work really hard for my money versus work harder, not smarter, and still get money and still spend money the way I want to spend it, has been a really big shift for me.
Yeah, because you said a couple of things. Is one, people don't realize, like when she was saying, oh, that's an expensive drink. In some ways, or in a lot of ways, that is a scarcity mindset. And the reason why we say that is because you're basically telling the universe, oh, I can't spend that much money. So it's a block on you receiving the money. And I am all about what you focus on, you create more of. And one of the things that you said was, I can do this and that. And so one of the things I tell people is, why can't you save and have money to spend? So I do both. I have a Lisa spending account, okay? I like these designer jeans called Judy Blues. I love these jeans. Love them. Okay. And I also go and shop at a consignment store. I also go and shop sometimes at Goodwill. It just depends on what I'm looking for and what I want. And you can do both. Like 5 years ago, would I have bought Judy Blue jeans? No, I would have told you were insane. And that's a belief I had to shift. Excuse me. I love Judy Blue jeans. And when I decide I want something, I don't make it wrong or bad or, oh, Lisa, I can't believe you spent that. I just make the decision I'm going to buy it, and I go and buy it. How I structure that, though, is having that spending account. I want to go and buy these jeans because I love them. There's a Judy Blue just came out with a pink pair of jeans. That's what I'm saying. I mean, they're gorgeous and they're pink. And they're so me. And I'm looking in the account to say, okay, is there money in there? Was there something else I was wanting? Or am I good to go and get this and let the account build back up? Those are making conscious decisions. And when even millionaires, when they have 82 cars, 9 out of 10 times they're making a conscious decision of they love collecting cars. So they're going to buy these cars because they've always wanted to collect them, and they may have never thought they would own them. So now they own 82 of them. What we don't realize is that what we see on this side is kind of what you're talking about. They're greedy and they're not taking care of other people and yada, yada. And so what I want to do is I want to make more money so that I can give back and help others, right? And so that I can travel and I can take my kid, I can support my kids. So I have several little caveats in there, little things I want to do. And so the importance of all of this is remembering that the money gives you freedom for you to be able to do the things you want to do. And so the more growth you have, you're going to be able to live the lifestyle you want. The same thing with me. It's going to be able to give me the lifestyle I want. And they're going to be kind of the same. You and I both want to travel, right? We've talked about us doing a couple of things together, like a retreat or whatever. So there's going to be some. And then in a lot of ways, it's not going to be. Their location freedom. They've lived all over Mexico. I'm not. My oldest is special needs. She doesn't like doing those kind of things. She needs a consistent place. And so we stay in the place. It doesn't matter. It's the key of having the mindset that you can do it, and then having the structure and the mindset to look at it and make sure it's working for you. That's the reason why I love the money roadmap and what we call budgeting, but I call it a money roadmap, is having that money roadmap and then building it and tweaking it for you so that it works for you is what makes it so awesome. And the reason why I call it a roadmap is because when you get in a vehicle, you have a GPS, and sometimes you have to change directions because there's an accident or whatever. The same thing goes for your money roadmap. Life happens, whether we want it to or not. Life happens. Perfect example, last, 6 months now? And when life happens, we sometimes have to tweak that money roadmap or tweak that budgeting or tweak how much we're putting into those buckets or adjust what's going into one bucket because you need more money to go into another bucket. And if you weren't conscious of those things, then you wouldn't know what needs to be done to adjust it. So I love that you're doing that. And I love how you talked about, the mindset of that belief of working on changing what you would do with the extra money or how you would spend it, because it's just different from people. Just because we see because I'm with you, okay? I'm not going to go spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a handbag. I don't see the point. And that doesn't mean a person who is doing that is frivolous or whatever. They may like those handbags, and that's what they are rewarding themselves, and that's what they have decided to spend their money on. Great. That's what they've decided to spend their money on. I've seen coaches who've done that. And in the same time, I've also seen them do that and then turn around and also donate money, giving back. So they're doing both. And that's where that limiting belief is we only see one thing. So we think something and we're not really seeing the whole thing. And we have to remember that rich people aren't, yes, there are some greedy ones. Okay. Point blank. I mean, we're going to have greedy people all over the world. However, most of the wealthy people are not greedy, right? They're getting them things, but they're also giving back. Again, it's what money is a tool, and it's what we do with it that matters. And we have to remember that just because it may not be something we would do with it doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's a big thing. And as I said, as I kind of have these conversations with my kids, that's it. And as I said, my daughter wants to go away in December. I'm like, okay, so that's 10 months from now. You want to be saving your money, but you also need to be living things too. You don't want to live, in this little box for 10 months just so you can go travel. So it's like having these open conversations about it. And, again, she's 16. So, there are still things she wants to buy that, I'm just like, okay, if you want to spend your money on that, or you want to order Uber Eats, or you want to do it, whatever, go ahead. But it is definitely a learn. And it's something for me specifically, I find that I have to work on regularly. So it's a belief that's no longer as strong as it has been, but it's definitely something that I'm constantly working on.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the other thing too, is something I stress about a lot is understand that that money mindset or those limiting beliefs or whatever, that's something you're going to work on consistently every single day. We talked about this. It's kind of like fitness. People are like, oh, you love working out. Actually, no, I don't. Contrary to belief, no. And I know some people who do, who love working out, which is great. I, however, love the results after. I love how I feel after. I don't like how I feel when I don't work out. So therefore, I work out. I don't actually like, well, that's not true. I like some of it. I love the kettlebell swing. I'm just going to be honest. That kettlebell swing is like the next best thing because I didn't think I could do it. And holy crap, I can do it. I absolutely love it. And I don't wake up in the mornings going, oh, I can't wait to do a burpee. Yeah, no. I could live without those for the rest of my life. The point is you don't work out for a year. Oh, great. You're in shape and you don't ever have to work out again. That's not how that works. I wish it did. It's not how it works. It's the same way with the money mindset. I've done a lot of limiting belief shifts. I've changed my money story. I've changed my limiting beliefs. And now as I've been up leveling and things have changed personally and business wise over the last 6 months, I've had to reach into the toolbox and I've also had to dig deeper and learn new tools from my coaches because another layer of beliefs are coming up. And I'm like, wait a minute. So those are going to be things that you're always going to work on. And that's the cool thing about it is having those tools. I mean, it's just like, when I couldn't figure out why there was a shift in my numbers and you're like, okay, well, what changed? Go look at your toolbox. What changed? And when I looked at the toolbox, it immediately, I knew what had changed. And I immediately texted her and I went, I got out of doing this and okay, we're fixing that. And sure enough, that it changed it. If matter of fact, I didn't feel as tired or lethargic all the time. And it's because, remember, I was saying, I have a cup of sweet tea in the morning and then a day. And if I have more than that, it ends up being too much sugar. So I end up feeling off and I couldn't figure out why. And it puts inches back on and I couldn't figure out why. And sure enough, I went, I'm not measuring it. I was eyeballing it. Like I know what a cup looks like. So guess what Lisa does now? Lisa measures the damn cup so that she knows she's getting just a cup because when you eyeball it, you end up putting more than a cup. In no way, shape, or form can you eyeball a cup. At least I can't. So it's just important to realize that you're always going to work on the money mindset. When you think you've got it all, great. Yes, most of the time it's great. And having those tools to keep working on that money mindset. And what I'm doing now is I'm digging deeper and working on the abundance mindset and going deeper because I'm up leveling even more. So I'm going into the abundance part. So it's always going to be a work in progress. As one of my coaches says, he says it's a daily work in progress. He considers it's his daily workout on his mindset, on his brain, on that mental part. And so I just think that's really, really important. How has this shift been for you? How does it feel to feel different about it?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's been a work in progress, right? Because originally I fought it and I didn't want it and I didn't want to change it. And so even though I knew I should, I didn't want to. It's a lot easier. It's kind of like what we talk about with fitness. Like, it's a lot easier to sit on the sofa and watch Netflix than it is to do some of the things. It was a lot easier to let my husband deal with it and me just sit back and be like, where's my money? So I fought it for a while. And then as I shift and as I kind of go through this, it's hard. And I'll be honest, right? It's the exact same thing with exercise and eating well. And, the reason that we say it's a long-term solution is because it's an everyday thing, just like your mindset, just like your work on your money. But I think the big thing is that I always come back to that feeling. And you said it perfectly. I don't necessarily love working out, but I love the feeling that it gives me when I've done my workout, how it feels. And it's the same with how I look at my money mindset now. It's like the days that I do focus and I do feel like I've come a long way or I've done something that makes me feel really good about my money, I feel amazing. And then the days that I don't, I'm just like, oh gosh, okay. And then check back in again and come back in again. And so I think that's the big thing for me, is that it's been like this, right? It's this roller coaster ride of feel great, this is amazing, to, oh my gosh, my stomach's about to fall out, and oh, I'm going to vomit. Oh no, now I feel great again. And so it's been this ride, and I think it always will. There will be moments where it feels better and it'll be easier, and things will feel more simple. And then, as you say, as soon as you up level and something else kind of scrapes out the barrel, and you're just like, crap, where did that come from? And all of a sudden you're going to have to revisit and grab things out of that toolbox and try again. And I think that's kind of how, to be fair, is really exciting part of life when it comes to that. I know some people really love, the stay in your lane, mundane, like this is how it goes. But for me, I personally love to be kind of pushed off balance and just be like, oh crap, now I got to come back on. What do I got to do that? And so there's some excitement there. And then there's also some challenges, of course, because nobody likes to be uncomfortable. So that kind of makes it hard. But at the same time, because I feel that idea of, I like how I feel when I'm involved and I like how I feel when I get there, that's what I hold on to.
Yeah, I love that. The biggest things I want y'all to take away from this is the fact that the shifts can happen, okay? And you have to put in the work for it. You have to be willing to have those shifts, because, again, even though we had started talking about it 6 years ago, she took what I told her husband, and let her husband do it. She still didn't do all the shifts. It was 5 years later that she started doing some of the smaller shifts, and then recently doing the bigger shifts of now she's actually looking at it. So you have to be willing and ready to make those shifts. It doesn't happen overnight. They don't have to be multitude of shifts at the same time. Again, want small steps. And when you're ready, it's huge, because, just over the last 6 months or a year, I can tell a big difference from where you were talking about money and how you are talking about it now. And I see them in me. And one of the things you said is being knocked off kilter and going, oh, where'd that come from? Okay. I've said that probably several times over the last 5 months. And I've looked and said, okay, what do I need to pivot? How I was up leveling, is that the way that I need to up level, or should I be up leveling differently? And now I'm pivoting even more, and I'm up leveling, but it's more major up leveling than what I was doing, and slightly in a different way. And those are things that we have to be willing to look at and pull into the toolbox to remind ourselves, okay, I'm not where I was. We can keep moving forward. It's okay. And we have the buckets, we have the money plan. We just need to tweak it to get where we're going. Can you please tell our listeners what offer you have for them if they are, everybody needs to eat protein. So But what offer you have for our listeners if they're interested?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things, Lisa did a great job introducing me is that, it's all about simplicity and consistency. That's like our main focus on everything that we do. So rather than make it really complicated and overcomplicated and overwhelmed and feeling like you just can't do it, it's all about how simple we can make it. First of all, I hate cooking. I hate baking. I hate doing all the things that most fitness and nutritionists tell you have to do. So I look at how I can do it easier, simpler, and lazier. And that's how I always say, I'm the lazy person. I'm the one who doesn't want to do it. So I created a list of how you can add protein into your world without spending hours, right? You hear people talk about doing all these things and I'm like, I don't have time for that. Nor do I want to do that. I want to be lazy. I don't want to do those things. So the list that I have for you is 8 ways to add protein into your day without it being a big deal, right? It just happens. It's there. You don't have to do it. So that's the freebie I have offered for you. As I said, the biggest thing is always about making it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. And I know even we've talked about money, right? And I was even going to say this, like when you start overcomplicating anything, you get very overwhelmed and chances are you quit or you stop or you're just like, oh, too much. My brain can't handle it right now. It's the exact same way with anything to do with nutrition or fitness or any of those things. So when it comes to what I believe and what I am very, very passionate about is how can I make it fit into my life personally, Lisa's life, anybody who comes to me, where they're at, where they start, because nobody has time for that. Nobody has time to spend hours in the kitchen and hours in the gym or hours learning all the things that I have spent years learning, from my own experience and my certifications in education. We don't have time for that. So I've taken all of that and I'm like, okay, let's do this as simply as possible. Let's do this as lazy as possible. I'm often commented as I'm the lazy fitness trainer. I'm the lazy nutrition coach because I don't want to spend the time and energy doing half the things. So why would I expect you guys to do it? So super simple, super easy, 8 ways to jump in and add protein. And again, if I were to turn around to you and say the one thing that you should do for nutrition personally is add protein. And so I'm just giving you this list on how to make it happen without changing your entire world.
And I'm all about simple, y'all. Okay. And that's the reason why I love the money roadmap, because it's all inclusive and we start where you're at the same way with the fitness. And that's one of the ways she got me is she spoke my language without even realizing it. She says, I start where you're at. And I went sold because that's what I wanted and needed. I hadn't worked out in years. And some other person was trying to get me to do, I don't even know, what did I call it? Was it the bear crawl? I told you about it. And I was like, what is this? And it was hard, especially if you hadn't worked out in God knows when. And I was like, what in the world? And when she says that she starts where you're at, she does. I'm biased and it's the truth. And it's the same thing with your money plan. Do one thing, one step, open up 2 different savings accounts. Okay. You can have your one for a rainy day, open up one for a trip, specific trip you want to take, and whether it's $5 or $10 that you start putting in there, just start putting money in there, and open up one for your kids if you have kids, because all of us have school supplies, and those things I say they come out of nowhere, and they don't. We know they're going to come every August or September when the kids start school. So they really technically don't come out of nowhere. So start saving now, right? Because now it's February. You could have my kids and you could put stuff in there, $5, $10. That's going to add up between now and August. And that's the big thing that I want you to get it's doing those small things. Lindsay, thank you very much for joining me. I truly appreciate it. I love you. You know that. During the workouts, I may not like you very much, but I love you. And you know that. And my sassy friend, until next time, remember, stay sassy.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on Cash and Sass. Check us out on social media and on our website at www.thesassywealthcoach.com, where you can download my free Money Story Start Guide. The website again is www.thesassywealthcoach.com. And as always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And remember, yes, it is possible to have sassy and sexy money. See you next week.